Hey guys, what is up? AwesomeTheSauce here. Hope you guys are having a great day. Today, we're going to be doing a tier list of every school at max level PvP in Wizard101. I'm going to be talking about what I think is the best school for max level 1v1. I'm going to be talking about the worst school. I'm going to be talking about the why. I'm going to give my reasoning, and then y'all can weigh in on the comment. We go start with, I believe, number 7 out of 7 in terms of every school in PvP at max. Starting off this list at the very bottom of the tier list when it comes to PvP, I think it's definitely Fire. It really sucks that Fire is this garbage. I don't think it's arguable at all that Fire could be any better, because at the end of the day, it only has 2 really good strats. One strat is literally just a fuel like crazy, as in do it every round, and then basically just go for a Jhin. You have to not deck fail in order to do the strategy. You need to make sure that you pull your TCs. You got to be able to pull your potents. You got to pull your regular fuels. Yes, it can be a consistent strategy. It can help you rank up, but because of the fact that it could be countered by so many schools super hard, even that isn't that good of a strategy. And overtime Fire, though it used to be good, is countered very heavily by Gearhead Destroyer and Seraph and Kraken. Many schools can either naturally counter overtimes, or they can run a mastery in order to do that. So basically, we're looking at a situation where Life with Seraph can counter Fire, Storm with Kraken can counter Fire, Balance can counter Fire. So in my opinion, I think Fire is the worst school at max level. This is not a hard one, so I'm gonna move on to the next one, because I don't even think this is worth debating. I think when we're speaking to like a lack of adaptability at max level PvP, I think Life is super down there as well. And I actually don't believe that Life is that bad of a school. I just think that it has very extreme outcomes in PvP right now. There's a lot of new gear that came out for healing, like the Void Ring, like the Void Theme, the Void Boots, which give 10 outgoing, the Void Hat, which gives another 8, and something I don't have, but the Void Robe, which is clearly one of the best robes that they've ever put out. It gives like 16 outgoing while keeping literally merciless stats, giving you pip chance. One of the best robes in the game right now. But the second you go down that healing path, you give up so much damage as a Life, which is fine. It means it's balanced, but you give up so much damage that you actually cannot out damage schools that can basically out damage your healing. So against Storm, against Fire, against Mid, maybe even against Death, you're gonna struggle a little bit more than against other Life Wizards, other Ice Wizards, and other Balance while healing. And if you do what I'm doing here, which is run super offensive stats, like give up a ton of block to run 29 damage and 4 pierce on a Life, then yes, you'll probably be able to do very well against offensive schools, but defensive schools will be able to outpace you over time. Basically, there is no setup right now that is easily accessible anyways for the average Life Wizard. There might be some niche ones here and there, but I don't think there's one that most Life Wizards can access that allows them to actually be able to out heal weaker schools and also out damage, you know, strong schools at the same time. It's a really hard, weird situation. It's led to a lot of Life Wizards just jading and hoping that they don't get a Storm, I guess, and basically just not killing their opponent. I think if your goal is to actually kill your opponent, I think it's very hard to find stats that are actually good across a wide variety of schools. I'm astonishingly gonna put Myth at number 5 on this tier list, which I know you're probably wondering, why in the world are you putting Myth so low? Though they have a lot of options, right? They have like literally a lot, right? They have Infinite Shatter, they have Myth Fuel, they got Betrayal, they got Delusion, like you got so many ways to put traps on your opponent and take advantage of it. But the issue is, I think the problem with Myth right now is that that's all they really have. I think if you go against someone who's very prepared for traps, it's gonna be very hard to win that matchup. I think the only reason that Myth is actually competitive in PvP is because when the traps fail, they can always fall back on a Shield Gambit, and a 9-pip Shield Gambit is just very well placed to do good damage. I'm not saying that you cannot be good on a Myth. I think you could easily get to number 1 on the leaderboards with Myth, but I think their damage output is just a little bit too low to deal with Ice right now effectively, or Life when they heal. And I also think that it's hard for them to compete when a Storm takes the aggro very quickly, or even a school like Death, which they are supposed to counter. I think Myth is one of the most balanced schools, though. That's the crazy part. I do think if I wanted every school to be as good as any school on this list, I think it would have to be whatever school I put next on this list, which I'm not going to spoil it, or Myth. It's one of the most fun schools to play. It's just not as good because you have to adapt very heavily, and the game plan is never the same match to match. It's kind of weird to put Balance so far down on this list. I kind of feel bad doing it, but at the end of the day, number 4 isn't that bad. I just think that Balance, it's great. It's actually a very competitive school, but I think a large part of what makes Balance good is the fact that you can melt down set shields away and then threaten a Hydra and a Mockinspiel at the same time. Now, if that sounds like a crazy ass combo, it's because you literally need 3 cards in order to melt down and threaten a good hit with both Hydra and Mockinspiel. And if they weakness, which can counter both Hydra and Mockinspiel at the same time, you need to be able to have weakness counters as well in your hand when you pull off that meltdown. What I'm trying to say is you have very, very airtight combos, but you need your deck to work, and it's very hard to get weakness counters, Mockinspiel, Hydra, and meltdown all at the same time. Not to mention when like Ice Wizard's ward to balance, and when you go against a healing Life Wizard, for example, you just don't really have the damage output with spells like Lore Master. These are very utility oriented. Even Mana Burn, they don't have the damage output to out damage healing, and they most certainly do not really out hit a current Ice Wizard with ward. So you can get hard countered by a couple of matchups, and what you're left with, what's remaining, is a very hard combo to pull off generally. I will say this, I think one of Balance's saving graces right now is Supernova. I think there are so many schools that just put on a 6-round aura and just get ready to do damage. And the fact that you can hard stop that and also brace while you do something like that, I think that little situation really, really aids Balance in not being super, super bad. Now, in a crazy twist of events, I'm going to say that we have a tie for number 2. I'm not going to say one is better than the other. I know it's a cop-out. I don't give a damn. It's my video, my rules. I think that Death is tied with Storm for number 2 on this tier list. And that's just because they're two sides of the exact same coin. They're just super hyper offensive schools. Death has an insane damage per pip hit with Headless Horse. They have an insane Monster Mash spell, which is like, if you have a weakness on someone, you're doing 850 damage. It's literally nuts for Death. And their gear is so good that like up to 50 Pierce with like 145 damage is actually very easily accessible. And because of their HP, it's actually very, very easy for them to just out damage people and drain whatever health that they do take. I think the ease of Death is why it's so high up on this tier list. I think really your combo is to just go for that 6-round aura or a regular virulence, and you either, you know, after setting up a doom mode, you either go for a hit and bubble and just set up a double buffed hit at all times, or if they shield a lot, you just poison. It's literally that simple. I think the only school that's actually very, very good against Death right now is Balance. I think your resist is so low that for some reason Balance and their Lore Masters just like they stack up a lot of damage and really prevent you from draining, and their auras just don't work against Balance. So it's hard to chain an aura with a hit and bubble and get that double buffed hit that guarantees you the win so often on a Death. Storm is number 2 on this tier list as well with Death for the very, very similar reason that yes, they can do a ton of damage, but a lot of their combos are aura-centric. Like, this aura is everything, especially if you have an elf pet, it is everything. But Balance can hard counter it, and also, to an extent, Ice can 6-round brace over it, and it's very, very good against Storm. That being said, Storm has so many things going for it that puts it super, super up there. I mean, they have a very, very powerful Jhin combo, which I think is very underrated still. The best overtime counter ever. Like, an overtime will be on you, and you'll hit through a shield and do more than that overtime and leave a weakness. It's nuts. This spell is nuts against overtimes. Not to mention Wild Bolt. For 2 pips, you can just do 1,000 damage. I still don't understand why this spell's in the game in PvP. It's literally busted. And of course, I have a minion that has 700 HP still. So sometimes if you don't crit on this minion, it'll just stay out and it'll do all kinds of helpful things that'll guarantee you the W. I would put Storm well above Death if Rusalka wasn't a chance of giving the 35 blade. Grim Reader always gives 2 weaknesses. Rusalka doesn't always give that 35 blade. I don't think they actually have a good Shad because of just that alone. There's no utility technically on a Rusalka if you get unlucky, and that's the only reason why I think Storm doesn't purely edge out Death when it comes to just output of damage. That being said, I think the raid pet that gives 3 elves really, really puts, like, you know, Storm well above, because you can't really shield spam against a Storm if they don't deck fail. Because they have so many counters against like shield oriented gameplay, you're so good on a Storm. I mean, Galvanic, Elf, and then you're good to go. It's literally that simple. Now, I'm putting Ice at the top of the tier list, not because I want to, but because Kingzile has made me. There's one reason and one reason alone that Ice is very, very powerful in PvP, and it's this robe right here. This robe came out recently, and it's just, it doesn't make sense why the stats are this good. The 24 damage is more damage than any other robe that Ice has ever gotten. The 19 universal resist is literally cracked, and you also get extra resist against Storm and Death. So basically, against Storm and Death, which are very, very good schools right now, you're just kind of sitting okay. You just brace and you're good. Whereas all the other amulets from that same pack give like up to 9 resist, you get another 10 resist on your Ice amulet. So you can actually run the 77 resist that you see me have right now. By the way, that's without a brace jewel, but you know, like let's say you see the 77 resist and you're like, wow, that's like really good stats. You actually have 77 universal resist with like 80 something storm. Like I want to say it's 86 storm resist and 85 death resist. That is a super common setup, and you barely give up any damage. You'll still have like 147 damage with that setup. I think just their stats have just gone too far, and that's not even beginning to talk about how easy Colossus is to set up. You just shield and you're ready to do 800 damage. And Snowman is so good that you can just guarantee have a set shield in every matchup. I wouldn't even have such a big issue with Ice's resist if not for their HP and their damage output. I would love to see a version of Ice that has very good shield spells and very good resist, but doesn't get compensated so highly when it comes to damage and health, because otherwise you have a situation where you just brace and you're always safe from a hit on an Ice. They're essentially always winning a trade when it comes to Shads, and that's not even beginning to mention the fact that they have extra bubble copies from the blimp pet. You have a startling level of control for a tank school. It doesn't make any sense. I think it takes no skill to be high rank on an Ice right now, and for that reason alone, it's the top of the tier list. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree. I've been PvPing a lot recently, so this is just based on my experiences, but I think it's fairly indicative of how the meta is going right now. Let me know if I missed anything. As always, drop a like if you enjoyed, leave us something new. I would love to hear how y'all disagree with this tier list, because honestly, there's always some people that do. Let me know which school you think I ranked too low and which school I ranked too high, and let me know how you'd fix PvP right now. As always, if somebody hasn't told you you're awesome today, they doing something. I'll see y'all soon. Stay awesome, and yeah.